afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. We're going to go ahead and get our meeting to order. Good afternoon. Welcome, everybody. It is Thursday, February 27, 2025, 5:04 p.m. We'll go ahead and call our regularly scheduled board meeting to order. Thank you for joining us, board colleagues, Dr. Stubblefield, to all of our staff. Thank you for being here. To all of our guests that are with us this afternoon, thank you for being here as well. And if you're joining us online, welcome. Glad to have you. Before I continue, we do have interpreters available. If you do need interpretation for today's meeting, please let one of our staff members know. Raise your hand, let somebody know. We'll make sure that we get, an interpreter for you. En esta tarde sí tenemos, bienvenidos, tenemos intérpretes para esta reunión. En esta tarde, si usted necesita un intérprete en español o en algún otro idioma, por favor déjenos saber y levante la mano, déjela saber a uno de nuestros empleados y le podemos ayudar con interpretación en esta tarde. So if you do need an interpreter, please let us know. We'll have one available for you. Again, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today. We have a full agenda, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And as we do at every board meeting, I'll read our board norms and protocols. We agree to respect differences of opinions in making decisions for the district, to follow best practices in managing the superintendent and the management of the board itself, to stay on task when conducting business for the district, including while at board meetings, to never surprise the superintendent or each other when conducting official business of the district, to read these norms at the beginning of each board meeting and at board workshops as a reminder of how to conduct our meetings, and to continually self-check to determine if we are following our norms when conducting district business. Great to see everyone. Always great when we get to celebrate folks, and we have lots of families and students in the room with us, so welcome. We're glad to have you here. With that, Ms. Smith, would you please do a roll call?
Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda Clark, present.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, present.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez, present.
Robert Marlin Jr.
Robert Mallon Jr., present.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, present.
Rachel Russell.
Rachel Russell, present.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve today's regular agenda?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Smith.
Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez, yes.
Robert Marlin Jr.
Robert Mallon Jr., yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell.
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We're going to jump right into our agenda. Always great when we get to recognize students and staff. Before we jump and before I invite Dr. Bilbo Irvin to the podium, I did just, board, if you'll indulge me 1 second, I did just want to mention, I know of the recent passing of Mr. Leon Brady, who was just a legend in Kansas City, Kansas, and has done some amazing work for this district, for this community, for many families. So I just wanted to read something in honor of Mr. Brady. As many of you have heard by now about the passing of former Kansas City, Kansas icon, or Kansas City, Kansas icon, Mr. Leon Brady, we just want to let his family and friends know that we are deeply sorry for their loss and send our condolences and sympathies to Mr. Brady's family and to our entire community. This is a great loss for all of Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas, for our entire community. Mr. Brady was a beloved resident of Kansas City, Kansas, and had a profound impact on Sumner High School and Sumner Academy and many countless students. Notably, in 1972, he guided the Sumner High School Jazz Band to Paris, making a significant achievement for the school. Mr. Brady touched the lives of countless students, colleagues, and friends over the years and leaves behind a legacy of kindness, wisdom, and a love for music. Again, our thoughts are with the family during this difficult time, and we join together to honor the memory of someone who gave so much to so many folks. We'll never know the true impact of Mr. Brady because that will continue on and as part of his legacy. We honor him tonight, and his legacy will continue on. So if you'll join me in a brief moment of silence as we honor the life and legacy of Mr. Leon Brady. Thank you. And that's a great segue, actually, to invite Dr. Bilbo Irvin as she gets to talk about some Sumner High School exhibition that you probably saw if you didn't notice when you were walking into the boardroom tonight. So good evening, Dr. Bilbo Irvin. Good to see you.
Good evening, President Lopez, Vice President Russell, board members, Superintendent Stubblefield, and community. I'm Dr. LaShonda Bilbo Irvin, the Executive Director of High Schools, and I have the pleasure to recognize 4 students from Sumner Academy. Joining me at the podium is Principal Malone from Sumner Academy. I would like to recognize the following students: Ellie Jones, Neville Williams, Kenise Frazier, and Mariah Mosby Gee. These students worked alongside KCKPS faculty, exploring historic archives to create an engaging, movable exhibit to share with the community, showcasing the history and legacy of Sumner High School. Developed in the shadow of a murder and a nationwide entrenchment of Jim Crow, the establishment of Sumner in 1905 became a symbol of repression and resilience for the region and the nation. The project engaged students in historical research, interpretation, while offering a chance for students and visitors to learn about the significant chapter in the struggle for freedom. As we end Black History Month, it is important to highlight the contributions and events that happen here in our own community. In addition, this is an example of real-world learning that allows our students to engage in the relevant topics that have shaped our world. I also want to recognize Kansas City, Kansas Community College for their advocacy and partnership. We do have in the audience our project participants, Dr. Aaron Magolis, an Associate Professor and Director of Public History at Kansas City, Kansas Community College. Thank you for coming. Not in attendance, but also to be recognized, Shay Perry, the gallery coordinator and adjunct art instructor at Kansas City, Kansas, and Shay Dotson, assistant professor and director of the digital lab at Kansas City, Kansas. The students that created this month-long project, and here outside in our lobby, please take time to view the amazing traveling visuals created by our students and hear an opportunity to talk with our students, and they can tell you their experience of creating the visual and the impact that it has on our students and the lives of our community today. Thank you. Join me once again in celebrating our students.
Thank you, Dr. Bilbo Irvin. And I'll just add on to some of the legacy of Sumner High School today. Several of us were able to attend a performance at Sumner Academy that Sumner Academy students put on, part 1 of the history and story of Sumner High School. It was a brief presentation. It was great. The students did an amazing job. It was written by one of our very own staff persons at Sumner Academy. And there were a lot of alumni of Sumner High School who were present, so it was great to see them all come out and rally and support the students and the school, and to hear part 1 of the story. Part 2 is coming out in the fall of next year, and then the entire presentation will be performed in April of 2026. Is that right, Ms. Russell? It was a great show. Great job to the students at Sumner Academy. Would now invite Dr. Desiree Albitron to the podium as we continue with our agenda.
Good evening, President Lopez.
Good evening.
Vice President Russell. And
Dr. Jones.
Board of Education. And the Superintendent Stubblefield. I'm not Dr. Desiree, but Dr. Desiree will be supporting us in handing out the awards. I am so excited that we can recognize a team of individuals who stepped up in a very, very difficult situation and during a difficult time, and made sure that our scholars were able to continue learning and attending school as they needed to. And so we wanted to give a Resilience Award. And this Resilience Award, we proudly recognize the staff of Arrowhead Middle School for their yes, nice round of applause. We recognize them for their outstanding dedication and commitment to both their students and the community. In the face of adversity, when the fire occurred in their building, they stepped up without hesitation, adapting, persevering, and ensuring that students' education remained uninterrupted. Their resilience, hard work, and unwavering dedication are truly commendable, and we are grateful for their exceptional efforts. If representatives will come on up, I see their principal. We have a nice award that is being handed to them, a plaque, and we have also signs for each grade level that represents that for not only the teachers, but also for the students and their resilience and their perseverance during this time. So thank you so much to their principal, to the staff, and to Arrowhead Middle School.
Are there any other people in the audience? In the audience?
Thank you.
Maybe I'll go over.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Next, we're going to invite Mr. Dom DeRosa to the podium as we have a special presentation from the KNEA. Mr. Dom DeRosa is the president of our local KNEA chapter here in Kansas City, Kansas. Welcome, Mr. DeRosa.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez, and the board, welcome. Thank you very much. I'm here representing both our local NEA KCK and KNEA, and we heard what happened at Arrowhead and how devastating it could be. So we would like to make a presentation of some books for their library. These are donations from our association. I have some members bringing in. We have 7 boxes of books for the library to support Arrowhead in their recovery. And we want to thank everyone because we are proud Kansas educators.
Yes.
And we support each other because we are a family
Yes.
here. So thank you for your time, and we'll look to the principal about how they would like to get these books to their building. So, thank you.
We'll help them get
Thank
them
you.
there.
Thank you, Mr. DeRosa. Thank you to the KNEA and to the local chapter and to everybody. And again, just a thank you to all the staff, teachers, paras, the front desk folks at Arrowhead in the face of adversity after the fire. And we had to figure out what to do and where you were going to teach our kiddos, right? You guys adapted really quickly and still had uninterrupted education for all of our students. So great job. Thank you so much for all of your flexibility and all that you've done. We really appreciate all of you. Now I'd like to introduce Dr. Sarah Lucero to come up as we recognize our Students of the Month.
Good evening, Board President and board members and Dr. Stubblefield. I'm excited to present our Student of the Month. It's always my favorite part of the month here. But this one, you are going to love. I'd like to present Kinsley Hunter, who is 3 years old.
Yeah.
Just one.
Oh, wow. Girls clean.
Yeah, I don't think I really need to say much, right? I'm sure you can see why Kinsley Hunter was nominated, not by 1, not by 2, 3, or 4, but 5 staff members at Silver City. She has such a joyful approach to problem solving. Even though she is small, she is very mature with her emotional expression and self-regulation. She has great memory, and her learning shines through in everything she does. She has creative ideas. She's the one who will comfort her friends and cheer up classmates with hugs. She does lots of kindness activities with the kindness tree. She goes above and beyond to make sure everyone can participate in her class. I am so excited that we get to watch her as she grows in our district. Big round of applause for Kinsley.
Clean, girl. I like those socks.
She does.
So bow-legged.
Okay, our next student of the month, Sam Ruiz, who is a fifth grader at Francis Willard.
Yeah.
All right, Sam was nominated by Principal Lawson. She comments on his exemplary character and how he's a role model for his peers. He's very good at advocating for others. He reflects on his own experience. He's committed to improving and making a difference. And his favorite food, by the way, is pizza. Okay. And with him, he not only has his grandma, his grandpa, and his friend, or his family, but he also has one of his friends. His friend of 3 years came to represent and be beside him. So he has a strong support group with him. Let's give it up for Sam. Congratulations. Now for our middle school 8th grade student, Ovia Pugazindi. She is an 8th grade student at Sumner Academy, nominated by Assistant Principal Bernard. Now, she is known for her spelling bee. This year, she earned first place at the Sumner Academy Spelling Bee. What's even more exciting, she's been trying out for the spelling bee since 4th grade. She has placed second place, first place in the years past. She's known for her straight A's. She is respectful. She has a strong work ethic. She's willing to assist others. And when she grows up, she would like to be an architect. Let's give it up.
Right, yeah.
All right, for our high school student, we have Donovan Richardson, who is a sophomore at Sumner Academy. Donovan was nominated by Principal Malone. He has amazing grades. He has great attendance. He is an athlete who loves baseball, but the thing that really makes him stand apart is his character. He's one of the most genuine students you'll ever meet. If you take a moment to introduce or talk to him right now, he'll call you ma'am, sir, look you in the eyes, shake your hand. He has great conversations with you. He's caring and thoughtful. He has his family with him, his mom, dad, his niece, his nephew, his grandparents. And when he grows up, he wants to continue preaching. He wants to stay with baseball and be an entrepreneur in sales. He has a lot of options for him, so we're excited. Congratulations, Donovan.
Yes.
And that concludes our Student of the Month for February.
Thank you, Dr. Lucetto. We're going to, if you'll allow us, we're going to take a quick, brief recess while we take photos with our students of the month and their families and those employees who are here with them. So we'll take a brief recess. Thank you.
And if you haven't had an opportunity to look at the visuals for the Sumner history, you can step outside and see that during this time.
ahead and resume our meeting. Thanks for giving us a quick break so that we could take pictures with all of our scholars. Again, congratulations to all of them, their families, and to all of the staff that work hard to support our scholars. Great job. This is, again, I know it's one of our favorite meetings for the entire board. We'll continue with our agenda. Next on our agenda is our community comment section. Just a reminder, everyone is welcome to give community comment. Just please sign up noon the day before the board meeting to sign up. Each person will check in with the board clerk and then come to the podium when your name is called. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. State your name, and then your time will start when you begin speaking. I will notify you when you have about 30 seconds left, and I'll give you a quick sign and then let you know when your 3 minutes are up. As a reminder, per policy, this is a one-way communication where folks communicate to the board. The board will not interact or engage in conversation. A person in our leadership team will contact you after the board meeting if there is any follow-up. So with that, I see that we have a couple of folks. I'll call up Mr. Scott Harding to the podium, please.
Yes, my name is Scott Harding, and from Wyandotte County. We're Wyandotte County property tax protesters. I would like to say congratulations to all the kids and their hard work and the teachers getting them in the spots that they are and teaching what they did, and congratulations to them. I have two topics today. One of them is something that not everybody's familiar with. I guess there's like $43 million in Medicaid and Medicare missing, and there's been an administrative leave and possibly retirement, and we're trying to figure out what's going on, and we'd like to get some information from the board and whoever else is involved and actually keep us informed. I do want to appreciate Randy Lopez getting back with me and was going to set up a meeting before I came in, so I won't hit on all topics. But I would like to say we need to get a look at that, and I don't know if you guys on the board are aware of it. I know you approve a lot of it, but we need to actually take a look at it and find out what's going on and be transparent. You know, that's what we're looking for. And let's see, this is what is the USD 500 rules on the P card usage? Are there dollar limits amount per night on hotel rooms? If not, why not? Are there any guidelines to the IT subscriptions being purchased on P cards? If not, why not? Who manages these prescriptions? To know if there's available ones for someone leaving, and maybe we do not need 4 more licenses or prescriptions. There's a lot of these P cards that actually are showing, you know, it gives a column for student or not for student. We're seeing probably maybe 80% not for student on these P cards. There's $3.5 million being spent in 11 months, just 1 year. Not even quite 1 year. So we're just looking at this, and that's why I'm here today, is to, you know, put it out there so the public knows too. And I think you guys ought to let them know exactly what's going on so there's no hearsay or anything like that, because we're getting a lot of information and we don't like putting out the wrong stuff, and we'd really like it from the people that's in charge.
30 seconds.
And the thing of it is, that's the big thing. And a lot of things, some of these hotel rooms, I'll just bring it up, some of them are $1,100 a night. So when the people go out of town. So there's a lot of things that we really need to address and find out, because the taxpayers, Wyandotte County property tax protesters are growing every day. We're on Facebook, and there's other groups. There's 100 other groups.
We're at time, Mr.
In
Harding.
Kansas. Okay, I appreciate it, and whatever you can get for me, I appreciate it. And whoever sends me the emails or whatever, any information I can get, I am asking for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. Next up, I would invite Ms. Brianna Connor to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. My name
Good
is
evening.
Bree Connor, and I am an occupational therapist in USD 500. I come here to represent the concerns of myself and the special education team members of one of the buildings part of the school reconstruction plan. We acknowledge that there is an opportunity for stakeholders' input to be included when forming the plan. This input is necessary due to the direct building staff knowing the diverse needs of students that conflict with the inflexible features of the current built environment. Our building hosts multiple classrooms for the district's specialized education programs, which has come with many challenges in meeting students' learning and personal needs due to the natural structure of the environment. Students in these programs present with various needs, such as hygiene and toileting, using mobility devices, navigating sensory input and self-regulating around that input, and controlling their body to be safe in physical spaces. In order to create a space for our building's entire student population, we need to consider the following. 1, accessibility of all areas for wheelchair and mobility devices. 2, built spaces for nursing care and equipment within the classroom. 3, immediate access to hygiene facilities and equipment. 4, adjustable sensory features such as lighting. 5th, fully enclosed classrooms with minimized exit points for minimized sensory input and maximized safety. 6, designated spaces for self-regulation for sensory overload situations. 7, accessible playground surfaces and equipment. And 8, established ceiling structural supports in classrooms where special education students may need a mechanical lifting device. The above areas to heavily consider are offered due to them being present barriers at our building. When a space is built for the entire needs of the student body, all learning is improved. Our special education students would have an enhanced sense of belonging due to the space, including them in its design. The quality of learning would improve due to the skill practice having less barriers. It also builds trust with the families sending their children to school, as they would know that the environment is designed for their children as well. Inclusive physical environments maximize safety and promote socialization between disabled and non-disabled students. In closing, it is imperative for the plans for this new construction to include input from the staff and professionals directly involved in the daily educational needs of the students. Thank you for your time and effort to invest in the future of our community through initiatives like this. We are eager to work closely with the team who will be making it happen.
Thank you, Ms. Connor. And again, a reminder, someone from our leadership team will reach out to everyone that makes comment if for any follow-up and any resolution, and all of that information is shared with the board by the board clerk if there is any communication that happens after the meeting. Thank you. Next up, board, I would entertain a motion to recess to executive session to discuss matters of non-elected personnel in order to protect the privacy interests of parties involved under COMA, with potential action to follow to include Dr. Stubblefield, Mr. Goheen, Dr. Campbell, Mr. Lilly, and Dr. Jones.
So moved.
Or, I'm sorry, for 10 minutes, going in at 5:40 at 5:50.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes.
Robert Mylan Jr.,
Robert Mylan Jr., yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
Thank you. motion to return to open session, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions? Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Robert Marlin Jr.,
Allen Junior, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Thank you. Board, is there a motion to adopt the resolution to approve the notice of intent to terminate employee and suspend the employee without pay?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Robert Marlin Jr.,
Robert Milan Junior, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Thank you, Board. Next, Board, consent agenda, item number 5 on the agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Hearing none. Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Robert Marlin Jr.,
Robert Milan Junior, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Next, I'd invite up to the podium Ms. Laura Hunt, our Director of Libraries. Good evening.
Good evening, Board. Thank you so much for having me tonight. Let's see if I've got my presentation here. Student of the month, I don't see it. Oh, wait, that's the budget. That's not it. Who knows how to... Oh, okay. It was on board docs. But we can just talk about it if we don't have one. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay, so sadly, we don't have our actual presentation today, so we will just talk a little bit about Eagle Days. Oh,
And
sorry.
Board, it should be, I'll just say, it is on board docs for the board members. If you
Okay,
want to
perfect.
look at the PowerPoint, it is in your, so we do have it in front of us as you talk through it. Thank you.
That helps, for sure. Thank you so much. So I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about the Mr. and Mrs. F.L. Schlegel Environmental Learning Library. And so I have Patrice Gonzalez, the branch manager, here with me today because she knows all the ins and outs of that amazing library. If you have not been there to see it yet, you should. It's on West Wyandotte Lake. It is beautiful out there. And they're very unique. They have some really interesting programs. And today, Patrice is going to talk to you about Eagle Days and also about their regularly scheduled field trips.
That would be great. Hi, everybody. Like Laura said, my name is Patrice, and I'm the branch manager at Mr. and Mrs. F.L. Schlegel Library, located in Wyandotte County Lake. The address is 4051 West Drive, if you want to come visit me anytime. So, for our 23rd annual Eagle Days, we had 1,500 attendees, even though it was super cold. If I did not have to work, I would not have been there. But people came, and it was during the Saturday that we had our Chiefs game. So, of course, we had to have the Chiefs game on, and you could see who was dragged there as they're watching. So, we had 1,500 attendees, 900 of them were adults, and 600 of them were children. If you want to go to the next slide, there's some photos, is what I was told. And at Eagle Days, we had a whole bunch of different programming. So why we do Eagle Days is to educate people about the endangered species, specifically birds, raptors, birds of prey, and how we can help create awareness and help combat the endangered species. So what's really special is we had a lot of different activities. We had Operation Wildlife come out with birds of prey, owls, eagles, hawks. We had a coloring contest, a couple crafts, a bird call station. We were educating on avian flu because it's running rampant this year. There was a binocular checkout and a gentleman from Audubon of Kansas that had a scope, and they were actually able to find 23 different eagles, American bald eagles, on the water. So that's actually showing that we're doing some stuff, because the first year I started working here, you couldn't really see as many eagles. And if you want to go to the next slide about field trips. Okay, so our predominant, I would say our priority at Schlegel Library is offering field trips to the Kansas City, Kansas Public School District, along with other school districts in the Kansas City public area. So outside of our programming statistics, I wanted to share with you how many children we've served in the school districts, which was 4,268 last year. That's 36 different local schools. At least 25 of those are Kansas City, Kansas public schools. And then we taught 188 different classes. And of those different classes, we offer about 35 different programs that align with the Kansas State standard curriculum. So we like to help supplement. Some programs are going to be, we've taught this year archery, Atlatl, Star Lab Planetarium, animal habitats and adaptations, dissection, fossils, geology, mindfulness in nature, my specialty, nature journaling, physics, water quality, insects, plants, and sustainability. So we love getting all the kiddos from kindergarten to high school come visit us and learn about our Schlegel Library. So if you'd like to come out and visit or do a field trip, just reach out to me at pgonzalez@kckpl.org. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Board. Let me know if you have any questions about Schlegel or anything library related.
Thank you, Ms. Hunt. Thank you, Patrice. Any questions about the library report from the board? Okay. If not, is there a motion to accept the library director's report to the board?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Smith.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Robert Marlin Jr.,
Marlin Jr., yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
Although I'm still not a big fan of the Eagles right now.
It's a sore spot. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hunt, and thank you. All right, thank you, board. Next on our agenda is item 7, our board updates and approvals. Tonight we have a legislative update, and I believe online we have Mr. Sean Miller with us, who is going to provide a report for us or an update, and then we'll open for questions from the board. Mr. Miller, are you with us?
I certainly hope so. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. Good evening.
Okay, thank you very much. I turned on my camera as well, but that doesn't seem to be working. But as most of you know, you're not missing a whole lot by not seeing me in the flesh. So thank you very much. I appreciate you having me out here today. This is not going to be as fun. Oh, there we go. As Ms. Gonzalez and talking about mindfulness in nature. But I did want to give you just a little bit of a heads up of what we've been seeing here so far in the legislature. The great news for me and the terrifying news is I also have 2 representatives sitting there with you tonight on the board, so they can correct me on anything that I get wrong. But I really appreciate them. They've been a joy to work with this year. Took a quick look earlier today, just out of curiosity, to see how many bills we were tracking for USD 500 this year. And it looks like right now that is about 66 bills. That spans a lot of areas, as you might imagine. That is everything from school finance and the budget to a number of things that would impact boards, teachers, policies that we have within the boards, as well as just a number of social services. And at some point today, I'll mention a DEI resolution that was actually offered in the Senate Ways and Means Committee on the budget side today. But I did want to start and focus off right on the bat. I think probably the biggest thing that we're looking at is the budget this year. The budget is obviously huge for us every year, and we have a little bit of good news and a little bit of less than perfect news in the budget process. First off, we've taken up a completely new process this year. Normally, we would be working a Senate budget across over to the House and a House budget across to the Senate. This year, the House itself did most of the heavy lifting early, and the Senate really just started digging into the budget 2 days ago. So the House K-12 Education Committee that Dr. Nguyen sits on really carried the day on K-12 education funding. And I'm really happy to say I think it was a much different attitude in that committee this year. There was, quite frankly, just a different feel to the committee, a lot more cooperation than we've seen perhaps in recent years. And I think the budget that came out of the K-12 Budget Subcommittee was a pretty good one for us. It included full constitutional funding for K-12 in the state per the Gannon decision. It included $30 million in additional funding for special education, not the $72 million that the governor and that we had asked for, but $30 million. It included some additional money for to cover copays for reduced lunch for students. It included a few other rats and cats, things that we really would have liked. And then unfortunately, it got to the Appropriations Committee, and a lot of things that were there got cut. The good news is they did not touch any of the base funding. So base state aid per pupil still meets the Gannon requirement that came out. It includes the CPI adjustment that is required by the statute. But the $30 million that was in for special education, there was a motion to cut that completely. Ultimately, we had a substitute motion that got us $10 million in additional funding for special education, and that is statewide, okay? So when I talk about $10 million in additional special education funding, I believe, based on my back of the envelope numbers, we have a state statute that says the state is to cover 92% of excess costs statewide. We were in the low 70s coming into this year, about 72%. I believe that $10 million in additional money will actually probably cause us to drop back into the 60s, the high 60s, but in 60%, 69-ish% of excess costs. So that's kind of where we're at. They did add a couple of $1 million for Safe and Secure Schools grant program, but they tied that kind of to some AI programs to identify firearms in schools. So we'll see how that all kind of plays out. They did not fully fund the professional development for teachers that was requested. They did not fully fund CTE transportation that was requested. But so the high level news, the good news is full constitutional funding, base state aid per pupil. We did get some new money for special education, although it was significantly less than we had hoped for. And we did get a few smaller items as we moved down. So overall, probably not where we would have desired to be, but significantly better than where we were at 5 or 6 years ago and fighting a much different battle. Once we're beyond the budget piece, we really start looking at a lot of bills that came through the Senate Education Committee and then a few that came through the House. The Senate, I would tell you, did kind of the heavy lifting on what I will call perhaps the more controversial issues. As I'm looking through the Senate list really quickly, Senate Bill 75 is what I would call a voucher program. That bill did not pass the Senate, but it was what we call blessed. So it is still exempt and it is now alive and it's out there. We have to watch it, but it has not passed the Senate yet. Senate Bill 76 is what I'm just going to generically call a pronouns bill. It prevents school employees or teachers from utilizing a nickname or a pronoun that does not match the biological sex on the birth certificate of the student. Senate Bill 87 is a low-income tax credit scholarship program that we have, and it's a pretty significant expansion of that. That tax credit scholarship program probably had more testimony than any other bill we've had this year. There were a lot of proponents on the bill. Most of them were private religious schools. And we had a lot of opponents on the bill as well. And that was sort of a more broad, diverse group of folks that showed up to testify in opposition to that, many of whom were just really concerned that if we continue to expand these non-public scholarship funding programs, that we are going to accidentally, perhaps intentionally, but accidentally deprive public schools of the funding that they need and that they really critically need. I do not want to bore you by running through 66 bills, and I promise I won't, but I will try to hit sort of the highlights of a couple of them, or at least talk in general about some of the things that we are seeing. There has been some ongoing discussion about KPERS 3 and the difficulty that causes in recruiting and retaining teachers. So there's continued to be an ongoing discussion about that, whether that is enhancing KPERS 3 or whether that is moving teachers back into KPERS 2. We have not seen any fundamental movement on that this year, and I will be surprised if that ultimately makes it across the finish line. My apologies. On the House side, we saw a few smaller bills, perhaps a little bit less controversial, that were coming through. A lot of the bills that we track, because we are now beyond the turnaround date, and sorry if I'm using a lot of insider terms, but picture that last week was halftime, right? So we're through the first half of the session, and anything that didn't make it across at least one goal line last week is not alive for the remainder of the session. unless we do kind of special voodoo magic on the rules and somehow or another make it alive. We call that blessing a bill, and that is what we did with Senate Bill 75, which is the Senate voucher bill. So that bill is, even though it didn't pass the Senate, is still alive and able to move forward. There are a couple of different House bills that happened to as well. For anybody who watched on the floor, we had a bit of a kerfuffle last week where, I don't know how else to say it, except we almost had a fist fight on the floor, I think. That was during the debate on House Bill 2104, which is what those of you who have heard me report in the past is the Eddie the Eagle NRA Firearms Safety Program bill. I don't know that the fight was necessarily, well, there wasn't a fight, but the argument was necessarily related to that bill, but it happened during that bill. That bill subsequently was moved to Fed and State Committee, which is one of those exempt committees, and is alive and could show up on the floor of the House again next week, despite all of those turnaround deadlines that I mentioned to you earlier. We always have an exception or a way around here that we can do something. The House Education Committee also heard a tax credit income bill. That was House Bill 2136. They ultimately did not take action on that. But I would anticipate that Senate Bill 87, the Senate version of that, has moved to the House Education Committee. I assume it will be heard and perhaps worked in the House Education Committee. That could happen. It's actually scheduled for a hearing next Wednesday, and so we could see action on that bill relatively quickly after that. The House version of that hearing was so crowded that you couldn't get in the room, and everybody was limited to less than 2 minutes to testify per person. So I anticipate we'll see something like that again. We also had a couple of other items that were heard and attempted to be worked on really short notice. The Ruby Bridges Walk to School bill was introduced in both the House and the Senate. We actually turned in testimony, USD 500 did, in support of that. That bill ultimately was not passed out of committee, but it was worked, and potentially we could see action on one side because the Senate version is exempt, but it appears at this time that that's probably unlikely to happen at this point. So I apologize, I'm a lawyer, I can talk forever, but I think perhaps the better use of our time here, the good news is you're not paying me by the minute or the word, but perhaps the better use of our time is simply to turn it over for questions and see if there are things that I can address. I did mention earlier, and I will circle back really quickly, that in the Senate Ways and Means Committee today, the Budget Committee adopted a proviso that pulls back some money from the Department of Administration and a couple of other agencies and requires them to report to ensure that they have eliminated all DEI positions or DEI policies from their agency budgets. We have not seen the official language on this proviso yet, so it's unclear to me whether it applies to the Department of Education or whether they even have a policy that would fit under it the way it was written. But we have seen, with the change in federal administrations, a fairly significant amount of discussion about DEI and rolling back DEI policies and procedures, particularly at higher educational institutions. But that has sort of floated down to all of the other agencies as well. So I wanted to make you aware of that. The quick note on the budget in the Senate is they plan to work that and hopefully have that bill out of the Senate committee by, we are hearing, the 13th of March, so that it could be worked and passed the Senate before we get to what we call first adjournment, which is kind of our wrap up of the main part of the session. So we're going to be working on a really expedited timeline in the Senate for budget work. And we believe that most of these budgets are going to be broken out so that it is likely that the Senate Education Committee will oversee and take a look at the K-12 education portion of the budget. That's not a certainty yet, but it seems likely at this point. So with that, I'll sort of turn it back over to see if there's any questions that maybe we can make a little bit better use of your time.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I'll start with Dr. Nguyen or Ms. Brownlee-Page to see if there's anything additional that you wanted to add. Dr. Nguyen.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Hey, Sean, you have any info on what they did with the repeal of in-state tuition?
I do not at this point, Dr. Nguyen. I can certainly dig that up, and I apologize. I don't have that on my radar here in front of me. I could perhaps find it in the background, but I might fumble around a little bit. So maybe if there's other questions, I can try to find what we've done here. But immigration has obviously been a very big issue and kind of a target. In fact, we had a committee clearing issue in Senate, Fed, and State today on an immigration bill as well. So.
Thank you. Ms. Brownlee-Page?
The only thing I would report, our mayor came up to the Capitol today, along with Mr. Rios, John Rios, who's one of his consultants, and another gentleman, I can't remember his name. Senator David Haley proposed a bill to have an earner's tax. And we're just trying to figure out a way to relieve some of the pressure from property taxes, because that affects us. We may not deal with it, but it does have a big impact. And they were receptive, because when we proposed it in the House, they said maybe next year. So at least he got a chance to present, and I spoke with him as well, and we're trying to convince them to help us. We need something.
Thank you, Ms. Brownlee-Page. Sean, I've got just a couple of questions. Obviously, Medicaid expansion died terribly, but did you see any progress on it? Were there any votes that shifted on the Medicaid expansion amendments that were introduced on the floor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I really didn't see any that moved around. We're in a bit of a weird political world at this point where there are a fairly significant number of people, and I would say primarily rural Republicans on the right side of the aisle, that would likely support Medicaid expansion if they thought the vote that they were about to cast was the difference between it passing and it not passing. You have a few brave souls, I will tell you, that voted for it, even on the Senate floor when it was brought up on the budget last week. Senator Rick Billinger, who represents most of the northwest corner of the state, and his part of the state is really struggling with rural health care. But it did not really move a lot of the votes. If anything, obviously the Republican majority got a little bit bigger in November, as we're all aware, and it put Medicaid expansion probably a little bit further away from a reality. And there are not a lot of individual members of the House of Senate who are going to vote for it, knowing that it sort of makes them a target, but is still not going to put it any closer to passing. And that's sort of an unfortunate thing. It's kind of a political reality in the world that we live in. But the new bill that Governor Kelly introduced, which is called HAWK, that's the acronym, was moved from Interstate Cooperation, which is a committee that you don't want to get sent to because it never meets, back to its original health committee today. So that means it is there. Next year, it could be potentially heard. But it is one of those bills that is not exempt, was not blessed, and it cannot be acted upon this year.
Thank you. And then just two quick follow-up questions, and then anyone else that has a question. Regarding clinics, is there a cut or pending cut? I had read or heard about a 7% suggested cut across the board for FQs across the state. Are we seeing that? Is that a real possibility? Is that going to happen with the cuts around the FQ? So that's one. Second, there's conversation, or even from the national level, around executive orders that are going to require health centers, including FQs, federally qualified health centers, to ask for legal status of any patients that they're seeing, and if they're seeing any undocumented patients, that they would lose their federal funding, regardless of if they're using federal funding to pay for the care of those patients. Are we seeing that in Kansas? Is that moving forward?
So I'll try to take those in order, Mr. Chairman. First, the across-the-board cut was something that was requested by Representative Troy Waymaster. He's the chair of the Appropriations Committee, the House Budget Committee, if you will. He asked every agency to take a look at this so that they would know at the end of the day what a 1%, 7%, 10% cut would look like. We did not see that type of across-the-board cut enacted in the ultimate budget. There were cuts here, cuts there. And so I would suggest at the state level, we still have to go through the Senate process, and they'll make some additions and some changes and some cuts as well. But it does not appear to me that you're going to see an across-the-board cut of that manner. The second question that you brought up, I will somewhat in jest tell you that the day that one of us can figure out what's coming out of DC tomorrow is the day that we're going to all be rich because we have found a crystal ball. It changes a little bit every day. I will say that I mentioned the Senate hearing that we had today in the Kansas Senate that cleared the room. That was a very similar type item to that. It was to prevent anyone without illegal immigration status from obtaining any type of state level benefits. And so I do think you will continue to see that type of discussion, whether it's from DOJ at the federal level or whether it is from an executive order, exactly how they implement it. I do think something like that will continue to be discussed, whether it becomes a reality or not. Honestly, I don't know at this point. And we've seen a lot of freezes that were, reversed later in the day throughout the last several weeks. So I am far out of my depth if I try to predict for you what is going to happen in Washington, D.C. within the next couple of weeks.
I appreciate that, Sean. And just for clarification, right, we know that undocumented folks don't receive any state benefits, but that is not the narrative that they will share. So
that is absolutely correct. I am remiss on one, if I can talk about one bill really, really quickly, and I apologize, but it will be in the House Health Committee very soon. And so I want to make sure that our representatives are aware of it. Senate Bill 47 is a bill that significantly, I would suggest, impacts perhaps the operations of local school boards. Some of them in a way that many are already doing, but it's worth putting on your radar. It would require every district to publicly list the name and email addresses of all of their board members. It would theoretically allow any member of the board to change the agenda by putting a discussion item on there. So if I were a member of the board and I had some unique ideas that had not been placed on the agenda, I could place at least one of those on the agenda every meeting if I wanted to. It would also theoretically allow a board member to not be denied access to any school building, more or less at any time of the day or night. And so there's some interesting, it's a pretty significant bill. It passed with a relatively small margin in the Senate. It passed 21-19. So certainly would not stand a veto if the governor saw fit to do that. And I'm not suggesting that she will or she won't. But I will tell you that a great many school entities lined up against that bill when it was heard in the Senate. It has not been scheduled for a hearing in the House yet, but that is one certainly that we ought to keep top of radar, take a look at, and see how we feel about it and whether we choose to weigh in or not when it is heard, if it is heard in the House Education Committee, because that's where it's been referred. So my apologies for missing that one. That was a big one.
no, thank you for bringing that forward. Board, any other discussion or questions for Mr. Miller while we have him? Ms. Russell?
And forgive me if the bill that Dr. Nguyen was mentioning is this one that had I believe that it was the hearing in Senate, Federal, and State Affairs today, House Bill 2373 and Senate Bill 254, which is proposed law that would prevent undocumented immigrants who graduated from a Kansas high school from getting in-state tuition. What was the outcome of that? Or do you know what the outcome of the hearing was this morning?
So, thank you, Ms. Russell. That committee was adjourned exceedingly abruptly. Sorry, I'm talking the Senate committee. The House Fed and State hearing on that particular bill was scheduled for February 17th, and it has been canceled at the current time. So I'm not suggesting that it cannot be rescheduled at some point. It could simply be because it's Monday morning at 9 a.m. and they may not have some members there.
So
but House Bill 373 has been canceled for Monday morning.
So the update I got from Kansas Latino Community Network was that it was going to be heard today at 10:30, Which I guess is part of the problem, because even the Senate Bill 4, it didn't get a new number, but then it had a hearing without the website being updated. And so are you also seeing that the website isn't being updated in a timely fashion?
No, so the bill that was heard today in Senate Fed and State is the one that I previously discussed about clearing the committee. That was Senate Bill
Okay.
254, and that would prohibit those without legal immigration status from receiving any state-level benefits. That bill hearing was relatively short today. The
And it's
proponent.
it's not specific to just
It is
the-
not.
the
It is not.
tuition
The
base.
2373 that you mentioned is specific to that, but 254 today would be any state or local public benefit. And that bill had a hearing today. There was no action taken on it because there was pretty significant outburst from the crowd. People who would like to testify in opposition to that felt they were being denied the time. And so that committee was adjourned abruptly. The room was cleared because of sort of an outpouring of emotion, I guess I would say, from the audience.
Okay, and 2373 is the one that we will await to see if it gets another hearing, because that's the one that was canceled on February 17th.
That is correct. And it is the House version of the same bill that was heard in the Senate this morning.
Got it. And then, not something specifically for you, Sean, but I had the privilege, as well as Dr. Nguyen, of course, because she was on the committee. The students from Frank Rushton and their teacher were there. So if we could maybe next month celebrate those students who provided testimony, but also their classmates. There were a lot of folks who played a role in the video that brought her here, and I think that's something that we should celebrate. It's getting a lot of media time around the nation, just how brave they were, and they did a really, really great job. And so if we can make sure to take some time next month to recognize them, I'd appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. Any additional questions or comments for Mr. Miller or discussion? Okay, seeing none. Sean, anything else? Any final words for the evening that you want to leave us with, or just bring back?
I think that's it for now. I think we'll really focus when we see the House education agendas come out for the next 2 weeks. We'll know what the House has interest in. I mentioned Senate Bill 47. We'll be watching closely for that one. And then the Senate Budget Committee, if they break it out into Senate education, will be a really, really critical point for us to ensure that we can hold the line on full base funding with the CPI, because we know that has met with a little bit of concern from some conservative members. And so we're going to have to watch that really, really closely.
Appreciate it, Sean. Always a pleasure to see you, and for the update, look forward to hearing more from you and how we can continue to do what we need to for the best of our students. So thank you, Sean, for tonight. Thank you, Dr. Nguyen and Ms. Brownlee-Page, for continuing the good fight down in Topeka, and for always, it's a challenge, but we appreciate what you all are doing down there. And also, I don't see him in the room, but Francisco Litardo, who also works really hard to be a liaison for the district and in Topeka, and is always out and about and talking to folks and trying to help make sure that we're creating awareness and education on all good things for KCKPS. So thanks, Francisco, and all staff that help out with that. I know Mr. Birch and your team do a great job with that. So thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've got a great team. I love working with them. Appreciate it.
Likewise, thank you. All right, Board, we'll continue with our agenda item 7B. It is recommended that the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education approve the recommendation of the RFP Evaluation Committee that Hollis & Miller Architects and Multi-Studio be approved as architects for capital improvement bond projects as submitted by Mr. Wayne Correll and as recommended by Mr. Steve Lilly and Dr. Anna Stubblefield.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Open the floor for discussion or questions. Hearing none. Ms. Smith.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez, yes.
Robert Marlin Jr.,
Marlin Jr., yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Next, it's recommended the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education approve the recommendation of the RFP Evaluation Committee of Newkirk Novak Construction and McCown Gordon Construction be approved as construction managers at risk for capital improvement bond projects as submitted by Mr. Wayne Correll, as recommended by Mr. Steve Lilly, and as recommended by Dr. Anna Stubblefield.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Smith.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez, yes.
Robert Mylan Jr.,
Robert Myler Jr., yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And before we go to the next agenda item, I did want to just say thank you to Mr. Correll. Did I steal your thunder, Ms. Russell? Mr. Correll did a great job at pulling this committee together to have us review all of the RFPs, to be the communication person between the board, the committee, and those that applied for the RFP and those that have been selected. Mr. Correll, I don't know if you're in the room or if you're in the building. There you are. You've done a great job. I know it's a lot of work. It's a lot to try to coordinate calendars and schedules, especially for us board members. So we appreciate you. And all the time that you put into it. We're really excited for moving forward with those that were selected tonight, both the architects and the CMs, and the relationships that we'll be building together. As you heard tonight earlier in a community comment, there's a lot of need in how we move forward with our facilities. We know the needs that exist out there, and we are really excited and look forward to the partnership and to doing some special things here in Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools. These are our voters, our citizens here voted to move forward with this, and they expect excellence, and so do we. And I know you do as well. So looking forward to working with you to make this happen for our community. Long road ahead in front of us, but we're excited. I'm excited. So just wanted to share that. Ms. Russell, I know you were on the committee. Dr. Nguyen, you were as well, and others. So sorry I took your thunder there.
Yeah, and speak for yourself about schedules. No, I also just wanted to take a moment and just thank the staff and the board members who participated. Whoever says board members don't read lied. We read a lot of things, a lot of really great things, innovative things, and really looking forward to what the final product it will be. My English almost got messed up. But just want to really, from the bottom of my heart, thank the committee for their tireless reading, reviewing, all of the things. And again, I think Randy said it best. Wayne, you really did a great job with the crazy, wild team that you got. I'm so sorry for you. But really appreciate you making sure that we were fed, had all the snacks to make it through 2 very long days of interviews, and I just can't say enough of how appreciative I am for being able to go through this process and have some great committee members along the way. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you to the staff and committee members. Doug asks all the great questions. We didn't have to ask any questions. He had them all, so.
Literally.
Thanks again, everybody. We'll continue with our agenda. Item 7D, it's recommended the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education accept the bid from Heartland Seating for replacement of bleachers at Washington High School in the amount of $215,334, and at Wyandotte High School in the amount of $90,200, and from Carroll Seating for replacement of bleachers at Eisenhower Middle School in the amount of $144,184.14. Total, all projects, of $449,682.14, as submitted by Mr. Wayne Correll, Mr. Steve Lilly, and is recommended by Dr. Stubblefield.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Ms. Brownlee Page.
I don't know if either one of these companies are the same people who put the bleachers in at Arrowhead, and there was a problem. I was just wondering, were either one of these the same people?
I don't know if Doug or Mr. Correll, you have an answer to either of that question? making their way forward for those that can't see them.
Good evening, everybody, and I'm sorry, I did not hear your question.
Okay, I just asked, were either of these companies the same people who put the bleachers in? I think it was Arrowhead that had the problem, that they had to go back in and replace the bleachers. I was just wondering, are either one of these companies?
We
that
have
same?
used Carroll Seating quite a bit. We've not used Heartland. They're a well-established firm. So if there was one, and I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on what the issue was there. But that's one of the reasons why we
I know they had to go back in
chose.
and replace them.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, or was either one of these the company who did that?
If it was, it would have been Carroll Seating. And that's one of the reasons why we actually chose these two, because they both do have a pretty robust service departments that will help us with those issues like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions? If not, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes.
Robert Mylan Jr.,
Allen Jr., yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Next, item 7E, it's recommended that the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education approve exterior masonry repairs for Francis Willard Elementary in the amount of $83,942 and Wyandotte High School in the amount of $218,165, totaling $312,107 from Mid-Continental Restoration, Inc., as recommended by Mr. Correll, Mr. Lilly, and recommended by Dr. Anna Stubblefield.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Yes, Ms. Brownlee Page.
I was just wondering, where is Harmon? And there was some repairs that needed to be done on the outside. So I don't know where, if they're on the list and how soon they're going to fix that stuff out there. But I see these, but I was just wondering, where is Harmon on the list?
Yeah, we have on our masonry repairs, we do have a list of buildings that we're watching and that we're bringing them up based on what we see as priority. These definitely have issues. We do have another list. Harmon's not on that list. We did quite a bit of work on the west side at Harmon a few years ago, if you remember. I know there's some other issues with some of the windows and metal panels that are there that we need to work on, but that's not something that we have planned this time. Probably in the future, potentially next summer if funds are available.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Okay. Ms. Smith, roll call.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez, yes.
Robert Mylan Jr.,
Allen Jr., yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Next, Board, we are at agenda item 8.8, under Board Policy. We are bringing back policies for our review and potential action if it is the will of the Board, and I'll start with handing it off to Mr. Goheen.
So I think it makes sense. We've got an A and B here, but they're all board policies that were on the prior board meeting to be discussed. We have several that are on here for third read that do not have any changes from the prior read. I'll read those off, and I would suggest that you adopt those for third read with one motion, unless there's somebody that wants to pull one of them out. And those would be policy CNA, policy DE, DFAC, IDACA, and JGFGBA. And all of those are on for third read with no changes from the last meeting when they were adopted for second read.
Thank you, Mr. Goheen. Is there a motion to adopt for third read policies CNA, DE, DFAC, IDACA, JGFGBA?
Can you? So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I will repeat those. Policies CNA, policy DE, policy DFAC, policy IDACA, and policy JGFGBA.
And we have two policies that are on.
Sorry, really quick. There was a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion?
That was a total of 5.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
5 policies that are for approval for third read.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, there was a motion and a second. Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes?
Robert Mylan Jr.,
Robert Mylan Jr., yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Okay, I was getting ahead of myself, optimistic that we would move through that quickly. We have 2 policies that were up for second read last month. There were some questions from the board on those. I sent an email out to the board with response from staff on those. So they are ready for approval for second read. There are no changes from the first read, and that's policy DFH and policy ICA.
Policy DFH and policy ICA. Board, is there a motion to approve for, and this would be third read, you said, Mr. Goss?
This is second read.
I'm sorry, second read. Is there a motion to approve for second read policies DFH and policy ICA?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions on those policies? Seeing none, Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes.
Robert Mylan Jr.,
Mylan Jr., yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, no, because there are no specific quantitative metrics to ICA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to point out for the board that board policy that was adopted for a second read at the last meeting, JGFGAA, which is the one for storage of additional medication, is not on the agenda tonight. There were questions about budget and other things along in connection with that, so we did not put it on for third read. I know you guys have got budget conversations going on, so that's there and available to be adopted, but we held that one off. The next 2 policies are on for third read. The first one is FC, which is naming of properties. You recall at the last meeting, the board had asked us to make sure we put back in language on renaming facilities such that the request for renaming a facility would come to the board first, and then the board would decide whether to refer it to a committee or not. And so that language change has been made in the revision from the second read. So that language is now in the policy, so it's ready for third read if the board so chooses.
It's not on there.
Under the K. Or just making sure
Yeah, make sure it's
folks
the right
can
one.
see the actual policy. It should be under the 8B KASB policy updates. On my screen, it's the first one, policy FC, under that list.
And it's the paragraph under renaming facilities that was modified.
But it's not a KSB policy update.
It is a KASB policy update. We've modified it from KASB's policy update because
Okay.
you guys wanted to change it to different language. So it was in the packet from KASB, but we have modified it from what was proposed by KASB.
I don't think we realized that.
And so this one is up for third read as well.
That is correct, with the modification that we've added.
Is there a motion to accept for third read policy FC?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? For clarity, if I remember correctly, Mr. Going, the language that we put in there, this was discussed at the retreat a bit, and then again at the last board meeting. The language was really to go back to how the policy there were some changes, but to go back to the policy, so again, that it goes to the superintendent or their designee and the board clerk receive it, request, then it goes to the full board before it goes to committee. The board will decide if it will go to a committee or not.
That is correct. That was what the direction given
That's right.
at the retreat and then at the board meeting.
Okay, any questions on policy FC? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Robert Mylan Jr.,
Allen Junior, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Can I confirm, you said that was a third read?
That is correct.
Okay,
So that's policy now.
okay. Thank you.
Okay. So the last one is policy CJ. There was discussion about this policy at the last meeting with request to make some revisions or potential revisions to this.
Sorry.
This is the one on use of consultants. And we have two that I want to make sure the board knows what the prior version was that was adopted for the first two reads. And I was asked to try to come up with some language based on feedback from the board at the last meeting. So I want to make sure if you are adopting it, you're adopting what you want. And that also if there's changes to make, again, we can make them since you've not seen this revised language. So the prior language that was proposed and adopted second read, the last sentence was the contract renewals with consultants shall be dependent upon a minimum of 90% performance based upon the district's evaluation tool. The language I came up with, or tried to come up with following the feedback from the board at the last meeting was the performance of consultants shall be evaluated based upon the district's evaluation tool with performance being considered prior to any contract renewal. So it leaves out the specific number, which is what I gathered from the consensus of the board. And that's the main difference.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Nguyen.
With your permission, I'd like to change my vote. What was the other two names?
Oh, yeah, it was ICA and
DFM.
DFH. Yeah,
DH, is that an H or an M?
DFH.
To a yes, because I thought that the ICA was CJ.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It-
How do we,
The board clerk can make that correction on the record, and there's certainly, that's,
Good, thank you.
thank you, Dr. Nguyen.
Could he repeat that again, please? What you just said?
yeah. So the proposal that was made at the second read, that was adopted for second read, had language, this last sentence read, contract renewals with consultants shall be dependent on a minimum 90% performance based on the district's evaluation tool. Based on the feedback I got from the board at the last meeting, the request to revise that sentence to take out the specific metric of the 90%, I changed the language to the performance of consultants shall be evaluated based upon the district's evaluation tool with performance being considered prior to any contract renewal. And the reason I'm pointing out the two is there was a difference of opinion on whether the specific metric should be in there or not. So I want to make sure the board understands the difference between the two proposals.
Thank you. And this is up for a third read as well.
It is up for a third read.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept the policy CJ for third read?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. I'll now open up for discussion on policy CJ. Questions? Okay. Hearing none. Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Robert Mylan Jr.,
Allen Junior, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
This time, no, because it does not have any metrics, quantitative metrics. So thank you very much.
Thank you, board. Those are all the policies, Mr. Goheen.
Those are all the policies. As I said, we've held in abeyance the policy on storage of emergency medication. Can bring that back to the board for third read at any time, but the impression that I had was the board wanted to have a discussion about budget in connection with that.
Yeah, and I think staff was getting information regarding cost of what that might cost, and I believe they were looking at some grants to bring back that information so we can have a full discussion on that policy. Ms. Russell?
So I have that we're holding over that policy that you just mentioned. And then from the board retreat, we should be bringing back, or maybe we can add it to the next meeting agenda to have a follow-up conversation about policy BCE, community comment during board meetings. So if we could add that to the agenda so that we can reach the consensus and provide Greg with the direction in order to make that update.
Ms. Smith, if you could make sure you make a note of that. Thank you. Any other thoughts, questions? Anything else on policy? Then we will move on to item 9. We'll hear from our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Anna Stubblefield.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I have a few announcements. The first one is, please join the KCKPS Board of Education for a listening and learning session to discuss budget and finances. The session will take place Tuesday, March 11th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. here at Central Office. We will provide a meal because it's over the dinner hour. You can go to our website to RSVP so that we can have an accurate count. But given that we've had lots of conversations around budgets and financing, we thought we would take this opportunity to make sure that we provide information to the community about school budget and finances and how schools are funded, and allow space for discussion and to answer questions. Join us for an inspiring event featuring a distinguished panel of community leaders and high school students. The luncheon aims to foster connections, share experiences, and empower our next generation of leaders. The event will take place on March 31st from 11 to 1 here at Central Office. This leadership luncheon will feature Black community members in leadership, so we'll get a chance to hear from them. And our very own Dr. Nguyen will be a part of that panel from 11 to 1 on March 31st. If you're interested in learning more about how your child could leave elementary school speaking, reading, and writing English and Spanish, please join us at the upcoming Dual Language Family Night on Thursday, March 6th. The event will take place at J.C. Harmon High School from 5 to 7 p.m. We hope to see you there. Sumner Academy student athletes were presented with a $5,000 check from the Kellogg's Mission Tiger program, thanks to the volleyball and track coach, Andrea Berman. Through the Donor's Choice program, Berman posted requests for equipment and materials, which were then funded by generous benefactors. Over the years, her efforts have garnered significant support. Most recently, a milestone achievement of completing her 10th project, which brought in over $20,000 worth of materials for the students. The Donor's Choice option, we share all that information out with all of our schools. Several of our other schools have had projects matched, and that's been a great partnership for the district in general. And we talked about this earlier, but we'll make sure we bring them to the next board meeting. I want to give a big shout out to our students at Frank Rushton Elementary School. Several students traveled to Topeka to advocate for the passing of House Bill 2030, which sought to designate November 14th of each year as Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day in Kansas. The students gave oral testimony to the Education Committee. Their efforts were also highlighted in the Kansas City Star and other places. And although the bill did not pass, we want to thank our students and praise their efforts and participation in the democratic process for a worthy cause. And the last thing that I will share, this time of the year, myself and superintendents across the state take the opportunity to provide short informationals like called Did You Know? And we will share, we've done some on career technical education, just highlighting our districts. And this one that we share tonight, given some of the misinformation that's been in the community about $43 million in Medicaid funding missing. Just to clarify, our total budget for special education last year was $25.1 million. We get Medicaid reimbursement. That means we submit paperwork to get reimbursed for the cooperative, which includes Bonner and Piper School District. And what we received for things that we paid for in advance was $3.4 million, $23.4 million approximately, but we did create some just handouts to be shared. We'll continue to provide accurate information, and we're always open to meeting and discussing when there are things that may appear one way. And honestly, I don't know where the source of that information came from, but that exceeds our actual total special education budget. And I want to thank you this evening for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stubblefield. I'll be brief, Board. Just a couple of things, Board. I'll be emailing you all, so look for an email from me, or it might come from Ms. Smith. I might have her just send it out for some options for a longer budget meeting. The last budget meeting, if you recall, we discussed potentially having a more than an hour and a half to kind of discuss our board priorities and other budget items. So look for an email from Ms. Smith or myself to find a date that works for the majority, if not all of the board, if we can make that happen. And then also just wanted to share this weekend on March 1st, there is a presentation of a documentary called Backpack Full of Cash that really talks about private school, public school funding and vouchers, really calling it out and for what it is. And that will be hosted at, I believe, Carl Bruce Middle School, March 1st from 11 to 2:30. Following the documentary screening, there will be a panel of presenters, including our very own Dr. Nguyen, who will be on a panel talking about public education and vouchers and public school funding and whatnot, including, and along with some other folks on the panel. But if you would like more information, be on the lookout for that as well. That's on March 1st. And then lastly, just want to recognize Public Schools Week, and just a thank you to all of our educators, all the folks who do some amazing work for all of our students and families in the district. You know, we face some challenges, but we always look to find the opportunities to do some amazing things for our students. So thank you to everyone. To all of our educators, past, present, future, for all that you do for KCKPS. And with that, I'll open it up to any board members who want to share anything. Ms. Drew, and then Dr. Nguyen.
Okay, just like to say that this week on Tuesday, I had an opportunity to attend Grant Elementary School. Wanda and I at one point had met with people from the company, and they donated books to our district, and we got a chance to choose the schools. I attended Grant in elementary school, so I had the books delivered there, and they asked me to come to read to the students, and I read to the kindergarten and first grade students. They received 4 books. One was titled Bee Dance. The second one was There's Only One for You. The next one was King of Kindergarten, and then Click Clack Moo Cows What Type. And I read King of Kindergarten to encourage them to be leaders in their school, but be obedient to what is being done. They were simply amazed at me being there, and they even came forward and got a hug from me right afterwards. And then after I left there, I go to the Y to work out, and Claude Hike elementary students were there, and they asked me to come in and watch the kids in the pool as they were exercising and learning how to do everything when it comes to if someone had some difficulty. But they even took a picture of me being there, so I was just honored at being at those events. And then on yesterday, I went to the mayor's prayer breakfast, this being his last breakfast that he's having because he will not be running for election. But it was just encouraging for me to attend the schools. And one of the things I always let the principals know, I won't show up, but if I get an invitation, I will definitely be in attendance so that I can see what the students are doing as well as the teachers. And I just really enjoyed being out and about doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Drew. Dr. Nguyen.
Yes, we can't talk too much about Frank Rustin kids because they were just brave and articulate and spoke up and weren't intimidated by the people on the committee. Then I had an opportunity to visit with the Sumner students who came up as pages. They were able to sit in on Legislative Post Audit Committee. Visited with Moscow representatives today who serve Wyandotte County and noted that they do come into our schools. I can't think of the organization, but the one that donates free hygiene products to our schools. I'm sorry?
Is it Giving Hope and Help?
No.
Don't know, but
Okay.
they said they were still
That was Bob Hamilton's wife?
Bob Hamilton's wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Giving the Basics?
No, well, they said we're on their list. And they asked that any school who would like those handouts, they'll give it to them.
So we can go back and check if they're not telling the truth. You already noticed Saturday, as Sean noted, we will have to fight back once again the push to, we'll call them either vouchers light, low income, scholarship, whatever. It diverts public dollars to private schools. And so Saturday is the film and a panel discussion afterwards. And then last but not least, March 8th weekend, KCKPS will have its board meeting in Parsons. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nguyen.
I'm sorry, one more thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Ms. Smith will send out the credit card policy manual and some new forms for board members to look and review. And the Finance Committee would like to recommend approval. I think it's at the March 25th meeting. I don't think it's at the March 7th meeting. March 7th will only give you a week to look at, so it'd be the March 25th. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nguyen. Additional comments? Yes, Ms. Brownlee Page.
I have a shameless plug, but on March 6th at Washington High School, my nephew, who's deceased, was a playwright, and he did editing and playwright. His first play was Brokeology, and he won an award from John F. Kennedy Foundation, as well as he worked with King of Thrones. He did the editing for them and some other shows. So if you get a chance to see it, it is an excellent play.
It is.
And the Arts, Recreation Art Department is sponsoring it on the Kansas and Missouri side. And it's free. It's on now at the Kansas City Repertory Theater. And I think the cheapest ticket is about $35, but you can see it free at Washington.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Brownlee Page. Okay. All right. Thank you, board. Always up to some great things in our community. So with that, we have reached our executive session portion of our meeting. First, would entertain a motion to recess to executive session for negotiations pursuant to the exception for employer-employee negotiations under COMA to include Dr. Stubblefield, Mr. Goheen, Dr. Campbell, Mr. Lilly, and Dr. Jones, going in at 7:15 for 10 minutes.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark, Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes.
Robert Milam Jr.,
Robert Milan Jr., yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great, thank you. Motion to return to open session. Moved by Ms. Russell, seconded by Ms. Clark. Any questions? Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark. Maxine Drew. Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes.
Robert Milam Jr.
Milam Jr., yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page. Rachel Russell.
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Great, thank you. Motion to extend executive session for 10 minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Russell, seconded by Mr. Milan. Questions? Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark. Maxine Drew. Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes.
Robert Milam Jr.
Milam Jr., yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page. Rachel Russell.
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give me one.
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Motion to return to open session.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Russell, seconded by Mr. Mylan. Questions? Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark. Maxine Drew. Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes.
Robert Mylan Jr.
Myla Junior, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page. Rachel Russell.
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to recess to executive session to discuss matters of non-elected personnel in order to protect the privacy interests of the parties involved under coma, to include Dr. Stubblefield, Mr. Goheen, and Dr. Weisman, for 30 minutes, going in at 7:46. Moved by Ms. Clark, seconded by Ms. Russell. Any questions? Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark. Maxine Drew. Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes.
Robert Mylan Jr.
Junior, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page. Rachel Russell.
Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
motion to return to open session?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Russell, second by Ms. Clark. Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark. Maxine Drew. Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes.
Robert Milam Jr.
Howard Junior, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page. Rachel Russell. Dr. Nguyen.
Thank you. Motion to extend for 15 minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Russell, seconded by Ms. Clark. Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark. Maxine Drew. Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes.
Robert Milam Jr.
Howard Junior, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Thank you. motion to return to open session, please?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions?
The big
Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew. Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Robert Marlin Jr., Wanda Brownlee Page, Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. With that, have a great evening. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.